You know that deeply modern universal frustration that usually hits late at night, like you're tearing apart your nightstand, desperately hunting for a very specific proprietary magnetic charging puck in the dark.
Oh, yeah, because if you don't find it, your wrist is basically going to be a completely useless brick by tomorrow morning.
Right, exactly. We've ended up treating our smartwatches like, I don't know, incredibly needy houseplants. If you don't tend to them every single day, they just wither and die.
It's exhausting, honestly.
Okay, let's unpack this because an excerpt I was reading today from Tech Unplugged, titled The Clockwork Survival, felt like such a breath of fresh air. They're tracking this radical evolution of smartwatch batteries right now in 2026.
And the industry is finally splintering over how to cure our daily charging anxiety, which is fascinating.
Splintering is the perfect word. Because of that charging frustration, the market is fracturing into two entirely different extremes.
Right, companies are realizing they just can't be everything to everyone anymore, so they are placing massive bets on opposite ends of the spectrum.
So let's look at the Garmin Extreme first. I was looking at the specs for the Garmin Enduro 3 from this excerpt, and the numbers are almost hard to believe. I mean, 80 days of battery life.
Wait, 80 days? That's incredible.
Yeah, 80 days. And that's aided by solar power built right into the lens. We're moving from measuring battery life in hours to measuring it in literal seasons. You could walk across an entire continent without ever needing a wall outlet.
What's fascinating here is that taking the wall outlet out of the equation completely changes the fundamental identity of the device.
How so?
Yeah.
Like, practically speaking.
Well, it stops being this passive accessory that constantly demands your care and transforms into an active survival tool. It becomes a reliable piece of gear you can actually trust your life with in the backcountry rather than, a liability you have to constantly baby.
Right, but I have to push back a little on the idea that Garmin is somehow just beating the heavyweights here. I mean, Apple and Samsung aren't failing at battery technology.
No, definitely not.
They're just building completely different machines. The source notes the Apple Watch Ultra 3 is hitting 72 hours on low power mode, which sounds like a sprint compared to Garmin's 80-day marathon, sure. But the Ultra is essentially a full computer shrunk onto your wrist.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that's the core of this clash in design philosophies. Apple and Samsung are trying to give you an uncompromised computer, but the physics of what that requires are just brutal on a battery.
Oh, absolutely. Constant cellular connectivity means the watch's internal antenna is perpetually hunting for and pinging cell towers.
Exactly. And every single ping requires a massive, continuous voltage spike compared to an offline device. Add in a bright OLED display that refreshes 60 times a second, background app refreshing, Bluetooth syncing. I mean, it's a constant heavy drain.
So while they're doing all that, what is Garmin doing exactly? Just shutting all of that off?
Essentially, yes. They are actively stripping the computer out of the smartwatch. They prioritize passive systems instead.
Passive systems, right. Like
Yeah.
what?
Well, a GPS receiver, for example, just listens for satellite signals. It doesn't have to broadcast massive packets of data back like a cellular antenna does.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So it's just receiving, not pushing.
Right. And they also use low-power memory and pixel displays. Those only draw power when the image actually changes instead of constantly refreshing a backlit screen. So they're trading rich media and seamless phone integration for pure, unadulterated endurance.
It really is the difference between strapping a high-end sports car to your wrist versus a solar-powered tank. Both are engineering marvels, but they are built for entirely different roads.
Yeah, and that brings up the ultimate question posed by the source material. It forces you to look at your own habits and ask, what kind of life are you actually living?
Which is a great question.
Do you need a wrist computer to triage your emails and take phone calls? Or do you need a dedicated survival tool that won't die on you during a multi-day trek?
Most of us aren't exactly walking across continents on a random Tuesday, I mean, let's be honest. But seeing this divide leaves me with this lingering thought to wrap up our deep dive today.
What's that?
Well, if a dedicated smartwatch can now survive independently for nearly 3 months, while our smartphones still inevitably die in 24 hours, are we approaching a future where the watch becomes our actual primary device? If you want to go truly off-grid, maybe the smartphone is the obsolete, needy houseplant you just leave behind at home.